South African Ford owners were up in arms when news broke out that the EcoSport would be no longer. Thankfully, Ford reacted quite quickly to this and gave us a whole new SUV that has entered our market. Say hello to the all-new Ford Puma. Now, Ford states that this car is not a replacement for the EcoSport. So what is it then? Well, let's find out.
The Ford Puma may be new locally, but it's been in production since 2019. It is based on the Fiesta, which is evident in its design. Despite it not being new, it has aged very well, from its gaping front grille, finished off with chrome accents, to its diamond-shaped headlights. It leaves a good impression. The side profile of the Puma gives it sleek proportions, which are topped off by the rear of the vehicle, which is minimalistic in design. The interior doesn't wow you as much as the outside, purely because it's old Ford CI, so everything is familiar. That being said, interior quality is still good, and Ford's synced infotainment system works just as well. The seats are comfortable and well bolstered, but don't be fooled, despite it donning the crossover name, its proportions are very much hatchback-like.
One crucial element that we must highlight for consumers looking to buy this car for its practical nature is the fact that the back seats are very small. I am an average sized person, height-wise at least. I know width-wise not so average, but even for me, it's a bit snug at the back. Headroom and legroom is quite tight. So if you happen to be a slightly longer than average person, it's going to be a bit tight for you. Maybe your kids will be fine, but if you have to sit at the back, yeah, it's tight. So first impressions in the Ford Puma, my mind thinks that I'm in a Ford Fiesta. There's a lot of Fiesta-ness in this Puma, but that's not a bad thing whatsoever because the Ford Fiesta is a very capable car, and after spending a few hours in this vehicle, I've come to notice a few things. One of the first things that I've noticed is the firmness of the suspension of this vehicle. It's not firm in such a way that the car becomes uncomfortable. It's almost like the chassis feels quite sensitive in this car. So when you take a corner, the car feels quite reactionary, if that makes any sense. Overall though, I am quite happy with how dynamic this vehicle feels. And despite us being high off the ground, this vehicle still feels a bit low slung, and you almost get the sense that you could take corners quite dynamically in this crossover. And I know that's not what you're meant to do in a car such as this. So from a day-to-day comfort perspective, I think that this vehicle will work for this type of consumer. It's not too soft, but at the same time, it's also still very engaging to drive. Engine-wise, Ford has equipped the Puma with a 1-litre 3-cylinder turbocharged EcoBoost engine. Those who know the Ford products will know that this is a popular engine that produces 92 kilowatts and 107 Newton meters. It is also mated to a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic gearbox, which works very well. The calibration between the small capacity turbocharged engine and the gearbox is a good one, because small capacity turbocharged engines can sometimes tend to feel like they're straining each time you accelerate. We haven't really had to push this car for us to understand how it feels at the top end, but for driving such as this, on scenic roads like this, it works. Manufacturers have been punting small capacity turbocharged engines for a while, and one of the benefits they mention is fuel economy. Now, I'm currently sitting on an average of 8.4 liters per 100 kilometers, which is not the best if you ask me. And that to me emphasizes the point that sometimes having a normally aspirated 1.6 liter or 2 liter engine, especially at the coast like where we're at now, is not a bad thing because you have a more linear power delivery and you can also benefit with better fuel consumption. One thing we must mention with regards to this car is that from the press images, it looks much bigger. This vehicle is actually quite small on the inside. The EcoSport to me was a more appealing package compared to this if you had practicality and space in mind. Ford makes it very clear that this is not an EcoSport replacement, but the reality is, with the EcoSport now being phased out in our country, this then essentially becomes the EcoSport replacement because besides an Everest, Ford only offers a car such as this if you're looking for something smaller. What I like about this vehicle is that with the EcoSport, it felt a bit like a mommy's car. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way whatsoever. What I am saying is that a car such as this should appeal to a slightly younger audience because it does look better on the outside, and if you come from a Fiesta or a Figo, you will be quite well acquainted with this cabin in terms of the way it works and again in terms of space. So after spending the day driving the new Ford Puma, I can fully understand why the brand decided to bring this car into our market, because there are many consumers out there that like the brand but perhaps don't want something as big as an Everest. With a starting price of 569,000 Rand for the titanium variant, yes, we know that this is not a cheap car, but at the end of the day, it does fill a necessary gap in the Ford product lineup.